The vote was 2 days away. The council chambers buzzed with debate. Some members had changed their minds after watching the rescue operation. Others remained fearful. Captain Hyon Wu spent those days in meetings trying to convince individual council members that humans could be trusted. It was exhausting. Every conversation circled back to the same questions. But what if you become aggressive? What if your instincts take over? What if you see us as prey? Dr. Jiwoo took a different approach. She gave a presentation to the scientific community on the station, not about politics or fear, but about human evolution and behavior. Let me tell you about persistence, she began. The auditorium was full. Hundreds of alien scientists had come to hear her. She showed footage of humans running, not the marathon that had scared everyone, just normal humans jogging through parks, children playing chase games, athletes training. This is what we are, she said. We run, we pursue. We don't give up. This trait evolved because we hunted by exhausting our prey. We ran them down until they collapsed. The audience shifted uncomfortably. But here's what you need to understand, Jiwoo continued. That same persistence applies to everything we do. We pursue knowledge with the same determination. We chase solutions to problems. We hunt for cures to diseases. When we decide something matters, we don't stop until we achieve it. She pulled up new data. After we nearly drove species to extinction on Earth, what did we do? We spent centuries bringing them back. We created nature reserves. We cloned extinct species. We changed our entire civilization to protect what we'd almost destroyed. Because once we decided that environmental protection mattered, we pursued it with the same intensity we once used for hunting. That's encouraging, Scholar Prex said from the audience. But it also means if you decide we're enemies, you'll pursue our destruction with equal determination. Yes, Jiwoo admitted. We would. But here's the thing. We're very, very careful about who we call enemies. Because once we commit, we don't uncommit. We're loyal to a fault. If we decide you're friends, we'll defend you forever. If we decide your family, we'll die for you. She showed footage from Earth's history. Soldiers carrying wounded comrades across battlefields. Firefighters running into burning buildings. Ordinary people forming human chains to rescue strangers from floods. This is persistence too, she said. We don't abandon our people, ever. It's built into us at a genetic level. The same instinct that made us chase prey for days makes us search for lost children for weeks. The same stubbornness that made us track animals across continents makes us spend decades searching for cures for diseases. So you're saying we should trust you because you're loyal? Someone asked. No, Jiwoo said. I'm saying you should understand us. Trust has to be earned, but it can't be earned if you quarantine us before we have a chance. That evening, Ambassador Velth invited Dr. Jiwoo and Captain Hyunwoo to her private quarters. It was unprecedented. Ceruleans rarely hosted visitors in their personal spaces. The quarters were beautiful. Crystal formations grew from every surface, refracting light in dazzling patterns. Velth floated in the center, her body showing colors that Jiwoo's translator identified as contemplative anxiety. I wanted to talk to you both, Velth said. Away from the politics and the formal meetings. Of course, Hyunwoo said. Velth was quiet for a moment. Her colors shifted through several patterns before she spoke again. I've been terrified of you since I learned what you are, she admitted. It's not rational. You've been nothing but kind and professional, but the fear is instinctive. When I look at you, something deep in my biology screams, predator. Jiwoo nodded slowly. I understand. Our forward-facing eyes, our posture, our movements, they all trigger prey animal instincts. Yes. But I've been thinking about something Scholar Prex said. He asked if we could afford not to be friends with humans. And I realized, he's right. How so? Hyunwoo asked. The galaxy is peaceful, Velth explained. We've had 10,000 years without major conflict. We've built a civilization based on cooperation and mutual benefit. It's beautiful, but it's also fragile. We've forgotten how to deal with real threats. She projected a star map. Our border regions are barely defended. We have sensor networks and research stations, but no real military presence. We assumed we were alone in the galaxy, just us and the peaceful species we know. But what if we're wrong? What if there's something out there we haven't met yet? Something dangerous? You want us as guardians, Jiwoo said quietly. I want to believe you could be, Velth said. But I need to know something. I need to understand why your ancestors left, why they went through all those portals. spent time on all those worlds and then returned home. What were they searching for? Jiwoo pulled up her own research. I've been studying that question. I think they were lonely. Lonely? Humans are social creatures. We need connection. When our ancestors spread across the galaxy, they were explorers, adventurers. They found new worlds, hunted new prey, saw incredible things. But they were always visitors, never truly part of the communities they encountered, because they were too different. Too scary. She showed images of ancient human artifacts. Look at this. It's a carving found on Cerelia. It shows a human figure standing apart from a group of Cerelians. The human is reaching toward them, but there's a clear space between them. This was made by humans, not Cerelians. They knew they didn't belong. So they went home, Velth said. They went home because they missed being understood, being accepted, having a place where their predatory nature wasn't frightening. And when they got back to Earth, they closed the portals, or lost them, or forgot how to use them, because they decided that being together on one world was better than being alone on many worlds. Hyunwoo spoke up. That's still true. When we decided to reach out to the stars again, we knew we'd face fear and suspicion, but we did it anyway because isolation is worse than rejection. We'd rather be judged for what we are than be alone forever. Velth's colors shifted to something that might have been sadness or understanding. My ancestors knew your ancestors, she said. They were friends. And then you left and we forgot. 50,000 years of forgetting. Now you're back and we're strangers. But maybe we don't have to be. What are you saying? Jiwoo asked. I'm saying I'm going to vote against quarantine, and I'm going to convince as many others as I can to do the same. Not because I'm not afraid, I am, but because I think friendship is worth the risk. The next day the vote was scheduled. The council gathered in full session. Captain Hyun-woo and his delegation were allowed to be present but not to speak. Commander Kelrick stood to present his revised proposal. Instead of quarantine, he suggested a trial integration. Humans would be granted limited membership in the council. They would participate in joint operations, cultural exchanges, and scientific cooperation. After 5 years, the council would vote again on full membership. It was more than Hyun-woo had hoped for. Less than he'd wanted, but more than he'd expected. Then Ambassador Velth stood. Her colors were bright and determined. I propose we reject this half measure, she said. The chamber went silent. The human delegation came here in peace. They've demonstrated their capabilities and their character. They've saved lives. They've been patient with our fear and our suspicion. They don't deserve to be tested for 5 years like children proving themselves to parents. She turned to face the human delegation. I propose immediate full membership. And I propose something else, a new role within the council. We need protectors, explorers, people willing to face dangers that we've forgotten how to handle. I propose we create the position of warden, and I propose we offer it to humanity. You want to make them our military arm? Someone objected. I want to make them our partners, Velth said. Yes, they're predators. Yes, they're dangerous. But danger isn't the same as evil. A doctor is dangerous. She cuts into your body with sharp tools. But she does it to heal. Humans have the capacity for violence, but they also have the capacity for protection. Let them protect us, Scholar Prex stood. I support this proposal. Counselor Thran rose. The amalgam supports this proposal. One by one, others stood. Not everyone. Kelrix remained seated along with about a quarter of the council. But the majority stood. The vote was called. When it finished, the results showed 189 in favor, 58 against. Humanity had been granted full membership and the role of wardens. Hyun-woo stood, his legs shaking. Thank you. We won't let you down. See that you don't, Kelrick said. His voice was hard but not hostile. We're trusting you with our lives. That's not something we do lightly. We understand, Hyun-woo said. Trust is earned, not given. We'll earn it. The ceremony ended. The delegates dispersed. Dr. Jiwoo found herself standing next to Scholar Prex. You did good work, Prex said. Your research into ancient human behavior was crucial. Thank you. But I'm curious, when did you change your mind? You were the one who discovered we were the persistence predators from the legends. That's true, Prex said. But I'm a scholar. My job is to understand, not to judge. And the more I understood about humans, the more I realized you're not monsters. You're just different. Dangerous, yes, but also capable of remarkable kindness. He paused, his ancient eyes thoughtful. Besides, I found something in the oldest archives. Because going home and coming back, that was what humans did. Velth accessed the emergency council channel. I need to call the emergency council session began at dawn. Ambassador Velth stood at the center platform, her crystalline body dim with exhaustion but bright with determination. Before we vote on the quarantine, she said, you need to see what I found. She projected the ancient Cyrillian text onto the main display. The writing was old, barely readable, but the translation was clear. She showed them everything. The cooperation between ancient humans and Cyrillians. The teaching, the protection, the friendship, and the departure. They didn't invade, Velth said. They visited, and when they were done, they went home. Commander Kelrick stood, his reptilian features twisted in doubt. One positive story doesn't erase thousands of negative ones. Then look at these, Scholar Preck said, projecting his own findings. More texts, more evidence of ancient human cooperation, from dozens of worlds. The pattern is consistent. Humans arrived, hunted the dangerous megafauna, taught local species new skills, then departed. They were helping. By hunting our animals to extinction? Someone challenged. The animals they hunted were mostly predators, Prex explained. Massive creatures that threatened developing civilizations. The humans removed the threats, allowing prey species, our ancestors, to flourish. They were culling, Jiwoo said. Everyone turned. She stood in the observation gallery where humans had been allowed to watch. May I speak? Velth hesitated, then nodded. Jiwoo descended to the main floor. Her legs shook, she was terrified, but she kept her voice steady. On Earth, humans learned that large predators and developing agricultural civilizations can't coexist. The predators kill livestock. They threaten communities, so humans hunted them not for sport or cruelty, but for protection. We pushed wolves, bears, and big cats to the margins so our civilizations could grow. She pulled up Earth data. We did the same thing with mammoth species and other megafauna. We were competing for resources. It was survival. But here's what the Council doesn't know. In modern times, we've learned better. We protect endangered species. We've brought animals back from near extinction. We build nature preserves. We've learned to coexist. After you nearly destroyed them, Kelrick said. Yes, Jiwoo admitted. We made mistakes. Terrible ones. But we learned. We changed. That's what intelligence means. Adapting, growing, becoming better than we were. But you're still predators, a voice called out. We are, Captain Hyan-Woo said, stepping forward. We won't deny our nature. But being a predator doesn't mean being evil. It means being capable of violence when necessary. And that capability can be used for protection instead of destruction. Pretty words, Kelrick said. But how do we trust you? How do we trust you? Hyun-Woo countered. You're debating whether to quarantine us, trap us on our homeworld forever because you're afraid. You're considering military action against a species that came in peace. Who's the real threat here? The chamber erupted in angry voices. Velth raised her arms. Please. This helps nothing. Counselor Thren spoke, their collective voice unusually unified. The amalgam has been debating internally, millions of minds considering this question. We have reached a consensus. Everyone waited. We believe humans are dangerous, Thren continued. But we also believe they could be valuable allies. The question is not whether they can harm us, clearly they can. The question is whether they will choose to harm us. And how do we determine that? Velth asked. We test them, Kelrick said suddenly. A joint military exercise. Let them show us what they're capable of. Let them demonstrate whether they can work with us or whether their instincts will override their civilization. Hyun-Woo didn't like where this was going, but he nodded. We accept. What kind of exercise? A rescue mission, Preck suggested. There's a research station in the Outer Rim that's gone silent. Possible environmental disaster. We send a team to investigate and evacuate if necessary. Mixed crew, humans and several alien species working together. And if the humans act aggressively? Kelrick asked. Then we have our answer, Preck said quietly. The council voted. The motion passed. 2 days later, Lieutenant Tae-Yang stood in the briefing room of a joint task force ship. Around him were military officers from 6 different species. All of them were trying very hard not to look nervous in his presence. Captain Hyun-Woo led the briefing. The research station on Kepler 442b stopped transmitting 4 days ago. Satellite imagery shows structural damage, possibly from seismic activity. 37 researchers are on site, mixed species. Our mission is to reach them, assess the situation, and evacuate if necessary. Why do we need humans for this? A Vrin officer asked. We have our own rescue teams. Because the council requested it, Yanwu said simply. Consider this a diplomatic mission as much as a rescue operation. The ship departed within the hour. The journey to Kepler 442b took 12 hours. During that time, the crew tried to work together. It was awkward. The aliens kept watching the humans looking for signs of aggression or predatory behavior. They found none. The humans were professional, helpful, and calm, but that almost made it worse. The calm was the calm of a hunter, patient, waiting. When they reached Kepler 442b, the situation was worse than expected. The research station was built into a cliff face. A massive earthquake had caused part of the cliff to collapse. The main structure was intact but unstable. The researchers were trapped inside, unable to evacuate safely. We need to move fast, the senior engineer said. Another tremor could bring down the whole installation. How do we get them out? Hyan Wu asked. There's a maintenance tunnel that leads from the back of the facility to the cliff top, but it's partially collapsed. Someone would need to go in, shore up the weak points, and guide the researchers through. How long will that take? 6 hours minimum, and we're detecting seismic activity every 30 minutes. The next big tremor could happen anytime. The alien officers exchanged worried looks. 6 hours of continuous physical labor in an unstable, dangerous environment. It was a huge risk. I'll do it, Taeyang said simply. Alone? The engineer asked. I'll be faster alone. No offense to the rest of you, but humans are built for endurance. I can work continuously. I won't need breaks. The Vrin security officer spoke up. That's exactly what the old stories describe. The persistence, the not stopping. Yes, Taeyang said. That's what makes us good at this. Do you want to argue about it, or do you want to save those researchers? No one argued. Taeyang entered the tunnel with a pack of equipment. The rest of the crew monitored from the ship. They watched on helmet cameras as he worked his way through the collapsed sections. Moving debris, placing support beams, never stopping, never slowing. 1 hour passed. Then 2. A tremor shook the structure. Dust and rocks fell. The tunnel partially collapsed behind Taeyang, cutting off his escape route. Taeyang, you need to abort, Yanwu said over the comm. The tunnel's too unstable. Not aborting, Taeyang replied. His voice was steady despite physical exertion. Those people need help. I'm 3 hours from reaching them. You'll be trapped. Then I'll dig my way out after they're safe. Another tremor. Worse this time. Part of the ceiling came down. Taeyang's camera went dark for a moment. When it came back on, he was covered in dust but still moving forward. The alien crew members watched in horror and awe. He's going to die down there, someone whispered. He knows, Dr. Jiwoo said from the ship. She was monitoring everything. He knows, and he's doing it anyway. Because that's what humans do. We don't abandon people. We don't give up. 4 hours. Taeyang reached the trapped researchers. He found them huddled in a storage room, terrified. There were 12 different species, all prey animals by evolution. They took one look at Taeyang, dust-covered, exhausted, eyes still sharp and focused, and froze. I'm here to get you out, Taeyang said. Follow me. Stay close. Move quickly. You're human, one of them whispered. Yes, and right now that's a good thing, because I'm not leaving until all of you are safe. Come on. He led them back through the tunnel, pointing out handholds, lifting those who couldn't climb, never rushing them but never stopping either. Another tremor shook the structure. More ceiling collapsed. Taeyang pushed the researchers ahead, then braced the falling debris with his own body until they passed. When they finally emerged at the cliff top, 5 hours had passed. Taeyang was bleeding from multiple cuts. His arms shook from exhaustion. But every single researcher had made it out safely. The rescue ship came down. Medical teams rushed to help. But the researchers didn't run to the medics. They stayed close to Taeyang. One of them, a young Cerulean, touched his arm gently. Thank you. You saved us, Taeyang just nodded. It's what we do. Back on the council station, the entire rescue operation had been broadcast live. Every council member had watched. They'd seen the persistence, the refusal to give up, the willingness to put himself in danger for others. They'd seen exactly what the ancient legends described. But they'd also seen it directed toward saving lives, not taking them. Commander Kelrix watched the footage in his quarters. He rewound it, watched again, saw the moment when Taeyang braced the falling debris with his own body to protect the researchers. A predator would have saved itself. A hunter would have let the weak fall behind. But Tae Yang had done the opposite. Scholar Prex didn't sleep that night. His kind didn't need much sleep anyway, but his mind was racing too fast for rest. He sat in his quarters, surrounded by holographic displays showing ancient texts and the new human data side by side. The similarities were impossible to ignore. Ancient text. They walked on two legs, tall and straight. Human data. Bipedal species. Average height 1.7 meters. Ancient text. Their eyes faced forward. Always watching, always hunting. Human data. Forward-facing eyes. Binocular vision for depth perception. Ancient text. They could run for days without stopping, following prey until it fell. Human data. Exceptional endurance capabilities, specialized for persistence hunting. Every detail matched. Prex had spent 300 years studying galactic history. He'd seen many mysteries, many unexplained things, but he'd never seen anything like this. The ancient texts were supposed to be mythology, stories to frighten young ones, not real history, but the humans were real. He activated his emergency communication channel. Within minutes, senior members of the council began responding. Ambassador Velth was the first to arrive at his quarters. "Prex, what's so urgent?" she asked. Her crystalline body was dim with exhaustion. "It's the middle of the night cycle." "Look at this," Prex said, gesturing to his displays. "Look at the pattern." He showed her everything. The ancient texts, the human data, the matching descriptions. Velth's colors began shifting through shades Prex had never seen before, dark purples and grays that suggested deep fear. "This can't be right," she said. "The hunger that walks is a legend, a story." "Every species has the same story," Prex said. "The Ceruleans call them the tireless death. The Vryn name them the patient end. The Nuvari records call them those who never stop. 57 different species have versions of the same legend, all describing the same creatures. Legends grow in the telling," Velth said, but her voice was uncertain. "They become exaggerated, perhaps. But look at this." Prex pulled up another file. 3 days ago, the humans gave a demonstration of their athletic capabilities. A cultural exchange event. He played the video. It showed humans running. Just running in a long line, their feet hitting the ground in steady rhythm. They ran for hours. The footage was sped up, showing the full event. 42 kilometers. Thousands of humans completing the distance. Many of them smiling. "They do this for fun," Prex said quietly. "They call it a marathon. They practice hunting behavior as entertainment." Velth's colors went completely dark. By morning, the council had called an emergency session. Humans were not invited. The great hall filled with representatives from across the galaxy. The mood was tense. Fearful. Prex presented his findings to everyone. "I believe the humans are the same species described in our ancient texts," he concluded. "The persistence predators that visited our worlds long ago." Silence filled the hall. Then everyone started talking at once. "This is impossible," Commander Kelrix of the Vryn said. His reptilian features were twisted with concern. "Those creatures vanished 200,000 years ago." "Perhaps they didn't vanish," suggested Counselor Thren. The hive mind's voice buzzed with multiple tones. "Perhaps they simply returned home." Ambassador Velth stood slowly. "I need to show you something. After Scholar Prex contacted me, I accessed my people's restricted archives. The oldest files we have." She projected images onto the central display. Cave paintings, ancient and faded. They showed tall figures with 2 legs and 2 arms. The figures held spears. They surrounded large animals. The style was crude, but the message was clear. "These paintings are 50,000 years old," Velth said. "They're from a cave system on Cerelia that was sealed after an ancient disaster. We've never been able to explain them. The figures don't match any species we know. They match humans," Prex said. Another representative stood. "The Amalgam Collective has similar findings. We dismiss them as convergent evolution, but if we consider the possibility that these are actual human remains, more species began sharing their data. Fossils that didn't match known evolutionary paths. Stone tools found in strata where no civilization should have existed. Cave art depicting beings that looked remarkably human. All of it dated to the same period, between 200,000 and 50,000 years ago." Commander Kelrix stood, his voice hard. This means humans have been to our worlds before. Our ancestors encountered them. And our ancestors were terrified enough to pass down warnings through millennia of oral tradition. They hunted our megafauna to extinction, another voice called out. Every world with human fossils shows a mass extinction event for large prey animals within 10,000 years of human arrival. The same thing happened on Earth, Prex added, pulling up more data. Humans appeared, and within 50,000 years most of Earth's large animals were gone. Mammoths, giant sloths, enormous cats, all extinct. They're a plague, someone shouted. They're monsters, another voice agreed. Ambassador Velth held up her arms. Please, let's remain calm. The humans who made first contact seemed peaceful, civilized. So did the ancient ones, probably, Kelrick said. Right up until they started hunting. A Nuvari elder spoke, her voice carrying the weight of centuries. I've accessed our oldest memory stores. Stories passed down from before we had writing. We have a tale about creatures that never stopped pursuing their prey, that could track across continents, that hunted in coordinated packs with tools and fire. She paused, her body glowing with emotion. In our oldest language, we called them those who walk the dust path. In modern translation, that would be humans. We've been calling them by their own name without realizing it. They told us what they were and we didn't understand. The hall erupted in panic. We need to quarantine Earth immediately, Kelrix demanded. Before they spread. We should destroy them, someone else shouted. Before they hunt us all. We can't commit genocide based on ancient stories, Velth argued, but her colors showed her own fear. Scholar Prex stood again. There's something else. I've analyzed human behavior since they arrived. Small things that didn't seem significant at the time, but now. He showed footage of Lieutenant Tae Yang during the security briefing. The way he stood. The way he watched. The way every movement was efficient and purposeful. This is predator behavior, Prex explained. He's assessing everyone in the room, calculating threats, planning responses. He's not doing it consciously. It's instinctive. Every human does this to some degree. More footage appeared. Captain Hyan Wu maintaining eye contact during conversations, something most species found aggressive. Dr. Jiwoo's habit of tracking moving objects with her eyes, following them automatically. Small human children playing chase games, practicing pursuit behavior. They're hunters, Prex said simply. Everything about them is designed for pursuit and capture. They've just learned to apply those instincts to other things. Science, exploration, conversation. But the instincts remain. Counselor Thren spoke, their collective voice unusually somber. The amalgam remembers. Not clearly. The memories are fragmented across millions of minds. But we remember fear. We remember hiding. We remember the relief when the persistent ones finally left. Why did they leave? Someone asked. We don't know, Prex admitted. The ancient texts simply say they vanished. One generation they were on dozens of worlds, the next they were gone. We assumed they went extinct, but perhaps they just went home. And now they're back, Kelrick said. Ready to spread across the galaxy again. Velth looked around the hall. She saw fear on every face, in every posture, in every color and sound and movement. These were species who had never known real predation, who had evolved past that fear thousands of generations ago. But the genetic memory remained, and now it was awakening. We need to vote, she said quietly, on whether to allow humans to continue contact or to quarantine Earth permanently. The vote was scheduled for 1 week. In the meantime, security around the human delegation was quietly increased. Guards were posted. Surveillance was enhanced. Humans were asked politely but firmly to remain in their quarters except for essential meetings. Captain Hyan Wu noticed the change immediately. So did his team. Something's wrong, he told Jiwoo. They're treating us like prisoners. Or like threats, Tae Yang added. His calm eyes assessed their situation. Security has tripled. Movement is restricted. This isn't normal diplomatic protocol. Jiwoo pulled up the galactic network on her tablet. She searched for recent council activity. Most of it was restricted, but she found fragments. References to ancient texts. Emergency sessions. Discussions about quarantine protocols. They found something, she said slowly. Something about us. About our name. Hyunwoo contacted Earth immediately. Admiral Su Jin appeared on the screen, her expression grim. We know, she said. We've been monitoring the galactic communications. They've discovered evidence of ancient human expansion. They think we're the monsters from their old stories. Are we? Hyunwoo asked. Sujin was quiet for a moment. Our ancestors did spread across Earth hunting megafauna. If they somehow got into space, yes, they probably did the same thing on other worlds. We've always been persistence hunters, Captain. The question is, what do we do about it now? Dr. Jiwoo couldn't stop researching. Despite the restrictions, she had access to the Galactic archives from her quarters. She dug deeper into the evidence, trying to understand what the Council had discovered. The data was overwhelming. Archaeological sites on 34 different worlds showed human presence. Not just fossils, actual tools, weapons, fire pits, and art. All dated between 200,000 and 50,000 years ago. All showing the same pattern of sudden appearance, rapid megafauna extinction, then disappearance. This can't be right, she muttered, pulling up another file. How did ancient humans travel between stars? We barely had fire. We were still using stone tools. But the evidence didn't lie. On a world called Takara, archaeologists had found a complete human skeleton buried in a collapsed cave. The bones were 120,000 years old. Next to the skeleton was a stone spear, flint tools, and carved bone ornaments identical to those found in Earth's African sites from the same period. On Vryn Prime, deep in a desert canyon, cave paintings showed human figures hunting massive creatures. The style matched prehistoric Earth art perfectly. The pigments dated to 87,000 years ago. On Cyrilia, in those sealed caves Velth had mentioned, fossilized human footprints led to a cliff face. Someone had carved symbols into the stone, symbols that matched early human proto-writing from Earth. The pattern repeated across dozens of worlds. Human presence, sudden megafauna extinctions, then silence. Jiwoo called up a star map and marked every world where human evidence had been found. Then she overlaid it with natural portal formations, theoretical points where space might naturally fold, creating shortcuts between systems. The patterns matched almost exactly. They found natural portals, she whispered. Somehow our ancestors discovered doorways between worlds. They went through, hunted, explored, and then what? Why did they leave? Why did they return to Earth and forget everything? She needed more information. She requested access to the restricted archives, the ones containing the most ancient legends and texts. To her surprise, the request was granted. Someone on the council wanted her to see this. The files were enormous, stories from hundreds of species, all telling variations of the same tale. The persistent hunters, the tireless ones, the creatures that never stopped. But as Jiwoo read more carefully, she noticed something the council had missed. The stories weren't just about hunting. A Cyrillian legend described the tireless death teaching early Cyrillians how to make fire, showing them which plants were safe to eat. Nuvari Memory Song mentioned the patient, End helping to drive off true predators, massive, beasts that had threatened Nuvari colonies. A Vryn story told of the dust, walkers leaving behind gifts, tools, preserved food, drawn maps when they departed. The ancient humans had been hunters, yes, but they'd also been helpers. Jiwoo started compiling these references. She built a database of every positive interaction mentioned in the old stories. There were dozens of them, hundreds even, but they'd been overshadowed by the fear, forgotten in the terror of being pursued. A knock on her door interrupted her work. Lieutenant Tae Yang entered, his face concerned. "Doctor, I need to show you something." He pulled up security footage from the station's training facilities. It showed him during a joint military exercise 3 days ago. The scenario had involved tracking an escaped exotic animal that was considered dangerous. Jiwoo watched as Tae Yang worked. He examined the ground, spotting traces invisible to the alien soldiers. He moved quickly but efficiently through difficult terrain. He tracked the creature across 47 kilometers, never stopping, never slowing. When he found it, he neutralized the threat with quick, precise actions. "That's impressive," Jiwoo said. "You probably saved lives." "Watch the alien soldiers," Tae Yang said. Jiwoo looked more carefully. The alien troops had given up after 5 kilometers. They'd been unable to keep pace. When they saw Tae Yang continue, their body language showed shock, fear. When he returned with the captured creature, they backed away from him. 3 of them had immediately requested psychological counseling. "I didn't do anything wrong," Tae Yang said quietly. "I just did my job. But I scared them, not by being aggressive or violent, just by being competent. You reminded them what we are, Jiwoo said. Persistence hunters. You showed them that humans don't give up. Is that such a bad thing? Jiwoo thought about it. No, but it's terrifying if you're not used to it. Captain Hyeon-woo called a meeting with his team. They gathered in his quarters, Jiwoo, Taeyang, and the other senior members of the human delegation. Earth Command has briefed me on the situation, Yeon-woo began. The council is voting in 4 days on whether to quarantine us. Admiral Soo-jin is preparing defensive measures in case they decide on military action. They wouldn't attack us, someone said. Would they? Commander Kelrix of the Vrin has been arguing for a preemptive strike, Hyun-woo said. He's calling us an existential threat. Some council members agree. The room went quiet. What do we do? Jiwoo asked. We prepare, Taeyang said. His voice was calm, but his eyes were calculating. We analyze their ships, their weapons, their tactics. We find weaknesses. We plan responses. That's exactly what they're afraid of, Jiwoo said. That we'll see them as prey. As targets, aren't they? Taeyang asked. If they attack us, if they threaten Earth, what else would they be? Hyun-woo held up his hand. We're not at that point yet. We still have time for diplomacy. Dr. Jiwoo, have you found anything that might help? Jiwoo shared her research, the evidence of ancient human assistance, the stories of cooperation buried in the legends, the pattern of helping behavior mixed with the hunting. Our ancestors weren't monsters, she said. They were just people. They hunted, yes. They were good at it. But they also helped. They taught. They protected. The council only sees the hunting, someone said. Because that's what they remember, Jiwoo replied. Fear is stronger than gratitude. But if we can show them the full picture, it might not be enough, Yeon-woo said. Fear runs deep. Especially genetic fear, the kind passed down through thousands of generations. Meanwhile, in the council chambers, Scholar Prex was conducting his own analysis. He'd been studying human behavior since they arrived, and something didn't add up. If humans were pure predators, they should be more aggressive, more territorial, more violent, but they weren't. Captain Hyeon-woo had been nothing but respectful. Dr. Jiwoo was genuinely interested in other cultures. Even Lieutenant Taeyang, who scared everyone, had never made a single threat. He was just present, watchful, ready. Prex pulled up more data. Human history. Their wars. Their art. Their literature. Yes, humans fought. They fought each other, fought their environment, fought everything. But they also built. They created. They explored not to conquer but to discover, and they were remarkably loyal to their allies. Prex found records of human groups risking their lives to save strangers. Humans running into burning buildings to rescue people they'd never met. Humans traveling across their world to help communities devastated by natural disasters. The persistence worked both ways. When humans decided to help someone, they didn't give up. They kept trying until they succeeded or died trying. Prex shared his findings with Ambassador Velth. This changes nothing, she said, but her colors were uncertain. They're still dangerous. To their enemies, Prex said. But what if we're not enemies? What if we're friends? Can you be friends with a predator? Can you afford not to be? Velth was quiet for a long time. Finally, she said, I need to access more files. The deepest archives. The ones we've kept sealed for 50,000 years. Why? Because I need to know why they left. Why the ancient humans departed after all that time. There must be a reason, and if I can find it, maybe it will tell us what to do now. She spent 2 days in the restricted archives. What she found made her rethink everything. The oldest Cyrillian texts, written when her species was just learning to write, described the departure of the tireless ones. But it wasn't a triumphant story of driving away invaders. It was a sad story about friends leaving. According to the text, the ancient humans had stayed on Cyrilia for generations. They'd taught the early Cyrillians technology. They'd hunted the massive predators that threatened Cyrillian settlements. They'd become part of the community, but then something changed. The humans became sad, distant. They spoke of home, of missing something. And one day they gathered at the stone circles, the ancient portal sites, and they left. The Cyrillians begged them to stay, but the humans said they had to return home. They'd been gone too long. They needed to go back to where they belonged. The last line of the text read, The tireless ones walked the path of dust one final time. They promised to remember us. We promised to remember them. But time has made liars of us both. Velth stood in the archive, her crystalline body glowing with emotion. The humans hadn't been driven away. They'd chosen to leave. They'd gone home, and they'd forgotten their galactic family because something had happened. The portals had closed, or they'd lost the knowledge of how to use them. 50,000 years of isolation had erased the memory of their travels, but the genetic memory remained. The instinct to explore, to persist, to never give up. The humans hadn't returned to conquer. They'd returned because humans always returned. The conference hall was the largest structure Captain Hyan-Woo had ever seen. It stretched upward for what seemed like miles, with platforms floating at different heights. Each platform held representatives from different alien species. Some looked like birds made of crystal. Others resembled floating jellyfish that glowed in soft colors. There were beings made of rocks that somehow moved, and creatures that looked like they were made entirely of light. Hyun-Woo stood on the human platform with his team. Dr. Ji-Woo stood beside him, her eyes wide as she tried to take in everything at once. Lieutenant Taeyang remained perfectly still, his hands clasped behind his back, watching everything with calm attention. "There are so many of them," Ji-Woo whispered. 247 species, Hyun-Woo replied. "And we're about to become number 248. A soft chime rang through the hall. Every alien turned to face the center platform where a massive crystalline being stood. The light from the room bent and twisted through its body, creating rainbow patterns on the walls. "Welcome, humans of Earth," the being said. Its voice seemed to come from everywhere at once. "I am Ambassador Velth of the Cerulean people. On behalf of the Galactic Council, we greet you in peace." Hyun-Woo stepped forward and bowed slightly. "Thank you, Ambassador. We are honored to join this gathering of civilizations." The ceremony lasted for hours. Each species sent a greeting to humanity. Some spoke words, others made sounds like music. A few simply changed colors in patterns that the translation devices explained were messages of welcome. Through it all, Hyun-Woo noticed something strange. Many of the aliens seemed nervous. They kept their distance. When he made eye contact with them, they looked away quickly. After the ceremony, there was a banquet. The dining hall was enormous, with tables arranged in a spiral pattern. Each species had their own section with food that suited them. The human section had been prepared based on information Earth had sent ahead. Hyun-Woo sat down and looked at the plate in front of him. Grilled fish, roasted vegetables, rice, and what looked like beef. Normal food. He picked up his fork and began to eat. Around him, he noticed the aliens eating their meals. The Ceruleans absorbed nutrients from crystal formations. The Nuvari floated near bowls of glowing liquid. The reptilian Vryn ate what looked like fruits and grains. Everyone seemed to be eating plants or synthesized nutrients. No one else was eating meat. Ji-Woo noticed it too. She leaned over to Hyun-Woo. "Captain, I don't see any other species eating protein like we are." "Maybe they just prefer different foods," Hyun-Woo said, but he felt uncertain. After the meal, Ambassador Velth approached their table. Her crystalline body reflected the light in beautiful patterns, but Hyun-Woo could sense tension in her movements. "I hope the food was acceptable," Velth said. "It was perfect, thank you," Hyun-Woo replied. "Though I noticed we seem to be the only ones eating animal products." Velth's colors shifted to something darker. "Yes, well, most species in the galaxy evolved from what you might call prey animals. We find the consumption of flesh disturbing, but we understand that different species have different needs. We would never judge you for your biology." But her voice suggested she was definitely judging them. Ji-Woo spoke up. "Ambassador, may I ask a question about galactic languages? I'm a xenolinguist, and I'm fascinated by how different species name themselves." Velth's colors brightened. "Of course. Language is one of our great joys. What would you like to know?" "I noticed that your species name, Cerulean, translates roughly to children of light. The Nuvari call themselves the remembering ones. The Vryn name means seekers of wisdom. These names all seem very peaceful, philosophical." "Yes," Velth said. "Most species choose names that reflect their highest values. What does human mean in your ancient languages?" Jiwoo paused. That's actually what I wanted to research. The translation databases have been using human as a direct word, but they haven't translated its original meaning. I'd like to add that information to the galactic records. Please do, Velth said. Cultural exchange is the foundation of our council. Over the next few days, the humans settled into their quarters on the station. They attended meetings, learned about galactic technology, and began establishing trade agreements. Everything seemed to be going well. But small things kept happening that made Hyunwoo uneasy. During a security briefing, Lieutenant Taeyang stood at the back of the room observing. He didn't say anything. He didn't do anything threatening. He just watched with calm, focused attention. By the end of the meeting, 3 alien security officers had requested transfers. When asked why, they couldn't explain it. They just said they felt uncomfortable. At a cultural exchange event, humans demonstrated various sports. When they showed footage of a marathon, humans running for hours without stopping, the alien observers became very quiet. A Nuveri scholar later called the footage deeply unsettling, but couldn't explain why. Jiwoo spent her time in the galactic archives, researching language and culture. She discovered something interesting. Every species name she found translated to something positive or neutral. Thinkers, dreamers, children of stars, the peaceful ones. No species had a name that meant anything related to hunting or predation. She dug deeper into human etymology. The word human came from old Earth languages. It derived from roots meaning of the earth or from the ground. But more specifically, it related to the way ancient humans tracked prey, following footprints in the dirt, reading signs in the dust, pursuing animals across vast distances until they collapsed from exhaustion. Ancient humans called themselves the ones who follow the trail, the dirt walkers, the persistent ones. Jiwoo felt a chill run down her spine. She went to find Hyunwoo. He was in his quarters reading reports. "Captain, we need to talk about something," she said. "What is it?" "I've been researching our name, human, and I think we might have a problem." She explained what she'd found. Hyunwoo listened, his expression growing more serious. "So our name basically means the ones who hunt by tracking," he said slowly. "Yes, and no other species has a name like that. They all evolved from prey animals, Captain. Herbivores or filter feeders or energy absorbers. We might be the first predator species they've ever encountered. But we're civilized," Hyunwoo said. "We came in peace." "I know. But they don't know that yet. And our name." Jiwoo trailed off. That evening, Jiwoo uploaded Earth's complete language database to the galactic network. It was standard procedure for new species, sharing language, culture, history. The database included the etymology of common words, including human. She didn't think much of it at the time. It was just information, just data. Somewhere in the galactic archives, a Nuveri scholar named Prex was reviewing the new files from Earth. He was old, even for his long-lived species, and he enjoyed studying the cultures of new civilizations. He came across the etymology file for human languages. He read through it with interest. When he reached the entry for human, he stopped. He read it again. His 3 hearts began beating faster. With trembling appendages, he opened another file, one from the ancient restricted archives. A file containing the oldest legends of the galaxy. Warnings passed down from species that no longer existed. The description matched. Persistence predators, creatures that tracked prey across impossible distances, beings that never stopped, never, tired that followed their targets for days until exhaustion claimed them. The ancient texts called them the hunger that walks, the nightmare creatures that appeared on world after world, hunting the megafauna to extinction before mysteriously vanishing. Prex looked at the human database again, at the images of Earth's history, at the evidence of humans spreading across their planet, hunting every large animal they encountered. The pattern was the same. He reached for his communication device with a shaking appendage. This information needed to reach the Council immediately. The humans weren't just another species seeking to join the galaxy. They were the monsters from the oldest stories. And somehow, they'd returned.